welcome back to LinkedIn Logs, the jobs podcast for the website cpluscomedy.com. Like I just said, it's a website. Go there. God, I should have swallowed before I said anything. Ugh, disgusting. Welcome back in. If you were watching the video, I started recording at exactly 11:11 a.m. I noticed it on my phone. I showed it. I made a little wish to the sky. Ooh, I hope it's a good episode. And and now here we are recording. Here we are back in the show. I've turned in. What have I done in terms of work? This is what this show is. First of all, I'm coming off of 2 cups of coffee after a very good day at the gym. Very good morning at the gym. A nice tight. Let me see how long that. 3 hours and 17 minutes of working out. Nice and tight. I'm gonna show you my app. It says 3 hours 17 minutes. Also 12 PRs. How many of those were new? From like new workouts. 4. Well, 3 of the PRs, but like 1 set or 4 sets, of one thing. Anyway, then I had a nice low impact Peloton ride. My girl Hannah Corbin, she's great. I watched last week's episode of Survivor. Fell in love with one of the contestants. I had breakfast, and I had 2 cups of coffee with that breakfast. Is everything good in my life? Nope. Nova's still, I don't know if I mentioned on this show, she has a mass on her hip, and it is growing, and I cannot afford the surgery, and insurance would not cover it. I wonder if my renter's insurance, no, it wouldn't. Anyway, yeah, that's pretty much it. So I mentioned last week how Straight Arrow News did not hire me. I don't care anymore. And I've talked to them 4 times over the course of, 3 years or so. Straight Arrow News did not hire me, and I've been writing for a website. I will not mention them. Not because I'm embarrassed or anything, but mostly because they didn't ask to be put in the spotlight. I mean, they technically are, but they didn't ask. Not to be put in this spotlight. I get emails on the C Plus Comedy YouTube, Jesus Christ, email all the time. And, more often than not, it's from Variety or Deadline, whatever. It's news. Sometimes it is a request to talk to somebody in the entertainment industry. Other times it's PR people sending me things specifically saying, "Hey Chad, we'd love for you to cover this." I don't do news. I haven't done news in years for C Plus Comedy. And then more recently, because I run the 3 podcasts for C Plus Comedy. Obviously, I'm the only one who does anything. If there was somebody else who did something for C Plus Comedy, that'd be great. And also, I'd be like, where'd you come from? But there's 3 podcasts. The Constitutionals, which is the original entertainment business news podcast, and then Late Night Lately, which is the late night show, and LinkedIn Logs, which is whatever this is. But sometimes these podcast analytics firms will reach out and say, "We think you should do this. This should work." And then I've never really paid attention. And then I got one this morning from Horton. Is that who they are? Is it Wharton? WHARTON, podcast analytics team. And it's UPenn. And they emailed me. Not for again, this is something that I really do pay attention to. Because I'm looking at the email now, and usually I just like skip over it because it's spam, more or less. But this is from an accredited university. But they were talking not about the Constitutionals, but they were talking about Late Night Lately. And they're like, "We sent you a note last week. This is a quick reminder about invitation." Essentially what they want me to do is to participate in a study, in a survey. It's the nonprofit arm of UPenn, and they said, we auto-tabulated some summary statistics about your podcast over the last 3 months. Again, this is Late Night Lately. And if this was a constitutionals, I would go, sure, why not? I'll do this. But the fact that it is the late night podcast, and all I do is talk about late night, I know that they did not pay attention to what this is. They're like, remarkably, over the last 3 months, you've put out over 8 episodes. Remember, we went dark in December because that's when the late night shows go dark. And then sometimes I'm off because late night shows go dark during those weeks. Hosted 61 guests. Those are the number of episodes it put out. It released 3.46 hours, which is, I guess, the total runtime. If this were the constitutionals, it would make sense that they go, oh, in the past 3 months, you've talked to 10 people. But no, it doesn't. Like, there's no guests on Late Night Lately. I would welcome them. I would love to have people from the late night world talk about late night. Anyway, it's a fake little. It's whatever. But it's not a scam. I thought it was a scam, and then I followed through and went to their website, and yes, these things are real. I just wrote a piece for the website that I am freelancing for, and I wasn't sure if this is late night, or excuse me, if this is LinkedIn Logs territory, but I feel like it's important. It's a piece concerning actress Millie Bobby Brown and how she's calling out the media for criticism on her appearance. And this is something I agree with her on, and it's something that I've been against for a long time. There's the articles she calls out are talking about how she and you go to her Instagram page because she calls out the articles and she calls out the writers, which I applaud. The quote unquote writers, which I applaud. Call people out on that. Do it. Destroy them. Who cares? If they want to post something like that to whatever BS website they're writing for, the Daily Mail, awardsfakes.com.net or whatever, do it. We should be able to call them out. If you want to talk about how she looks, she could talk about how you write. But she took the high road. Anyway, I wrote that piece covering that, and then she previously 2 weeks ago said something about the media. So this is like the fact that she went in again. And it's all referenced in my piece. Go find it. Go find my muck rack, and then go find that. But I spent a lot of time, especially since I'm new at this place, I spent a lot of time after I wrote it, going back and forth. I included the article titles themselves. A, to pad out my word count. But B, I'm a good writer, I promise. But B, because she called them out, I felt it was important to put down the types of things, the types of titles, and the types of things that were being said. And, it's things along the lines of, I'm just going to go to the website and look, because it is on the front page right now. And not anymore. Oh, somebody followed up. Okay, here it is. I found it. Some of the articles are, why are Gen Zers like Millie Bobby Brown aging, spelled wrong, so badly, and what has Millie Bobby Brown done to her face? Other ones include Millie Bobby Brown mistaken for someone's mom as she guides younger sister Ava through LA, and Little Britain's Matt Lucas takes savage swipe at Millie Bobby Brown's new mommy makeover look. That, as Millie writes and says in her Instagram post, is not journalism. That is what journalism has become as of late for a lot of platforms, big and small. But I'm going to be the definitive answer on this. That is not journalism. And the fact that people are, and I don't want to, I hate you just going directly to the term clickbait, but the fact that people whose job it is, who are just like me, who get paid per post and get paid bonuses based on or more money based on how many people click on the article and how many people stay on the article and how many views you get and all that stuff. I understand that, and I got that when I was writing at the Weather Channel, and I got that when I was writing at NBC News. And I always hated that. I never liked any of that. That's like the type of stuff when you go to some website and at the bottom it has, you'll never believe, like at the bottom there's like an ad for another article. You'll never believe what Kate Hudson said about Oliver Hudson as he was being born, things like that. 6 reasons why Jenny McCarthy's right about vaccinations. They wouldn't be that astute. But it's you really, in the same way that there are writers. Okay, hold on. I'm going to get off a writing thing. In the same way that there are reality stars, and no offense to reality stars, who equate themselves to the likes of actors such as Leonardo DiCaprio and Viola Davis. I'm sure there's reality stars out there. I'm sure somebody like Snooki or JWoww or one of the Real Housewives. I'll name a man. Any one of the guys from Farmer Needs a Wife or The Bachelor, Bachelorette, excuse me. I'm sure anyone. I'm sure at least one of them. Out of you get a whole slew of reality people. I'm sure at least a handful of them go, I'm just as good as Viola Davis. I can act in any movie. Hey, look at me. I'm Kerry Washington. Ooh, I'm Liam Neeson. I'm so good at what I do. Like, I'm sure that they think that they are that good. But there's a difference. There's a difference in acting. There's a difference in writing. You are not good at what you do. And the idea that you can just attack somebody based on their appearance and write 400 words of crap, just like spew 400, 500, 600 words of nothing and call that, dust your hands off and say, that's the day, then you should be disappointed. And it's not a skill. You're putting out garbage at the end of the day. Anyway, I went back and forth on including the names of the titles. I also wanted to include the writers, but I did not. I included the titles. You can Google the titles and find the writers themselves. I only did that because I didn't want to bring down the entertainment website that I'm writing for. Because I don't want to bring... Because look, I can handle attacks. And if those people call me out... Not the people I work for, but the people who wrote those bad articles call me out. Baby, I'm ready to go. I fire on all cylinders. I love it. Let's do it. Because Millie Bobby Brown, she took the high road. Me, I'll go low. I'll come after you. And I'll come hard. I'll destroy you. I'll ruin your life. 2 sentences. That's all I need. This is my invitation to those people. All right, let's get on with the story. This first one comes from Jill Goldsmith over at Deadline, who's an actual writer. Warner Bros. And I'm not saying that Deadline or the Wrap or Variety or IGN or New York Times. I'm not saying that they don't put out low effort posts like that, but some of their writers. I'm not saying like as the whole, but like some of the writers don't do the same thing. Just saying that the fact that you do that for work is just straight up stupid, and you should quit and find something else to do. Go shovel shit at a graveyard. Go to a farm and shovel donkey crap. Jill Goldsmith, Deadline. Warner Brothers Discovery drops diversity and equity language amid DI rollbacks. Our overarching work in this space will now be referred to as inclusion. Now, unlike many companies and agencies and what have you in this new era of Trump 2.0, as both the New York Times, the Daily podcast, and the Wall Street Journal's The Journal podcast continue to simultaneously post Trump 2.0 on their podcast episodes every Friday for the past couple of weeks, which is like, it's like such a wild coincidence that they would do this. There are a lot of companies pulling back their DEI language, their diversity, equity, and inclusion language. Paramount Global and Disney and a lot of tech companies and other corporate ones backtracked on DEI. Warner Bros. Discovery said it is making a few changes to its policy, including dropping references to diversity and equity. The memo, which was obtained by Deadline, said, quote, making this change better aligns our language with our focus throughout our company and our industry and across our content. Explains why they won't hire me again. Continuing on, it said WBD is updating the language we use to ensure the intent and impact of our actions are clear. You will see this new approach being updated on WBD.com as well as our internal channels. There was a new town hall in January at WBD where they reviewed these DEI initiatives. Again, if you don't remember, there were Trump and his cronies are saying this is all DEI is the reason why fires were happening in California and that DEI itself is racist and that it does not help out people and companies, which is just false. Especially if it's implemented correctly, it can be something that is truly magical. But you get rid of affirmative action at these big colleges, and you see the numbers go down. Well, They said, quote, Warner Brothers continued, our success absolutely depends on having a team that's truly diverse, reflects all perspectives, and has a culture where our employees feel valued and respected. I'm really good at knowing where the dog is. This scaling back or shuttering of programs has been something that is going to continue to happen, especially in this first quarter here, as Trump continues to make these executive orders and investigations into companies that still want to do DEI. I was championing him earlier, not Trump, but Jamie Dimon over at Chase said they weren't pulling back. And then cut to a couple of days later, he's like, hey, DEI, we'll kind of pull some things back. Like, that's crazy that you would do that. No, again, I was not championing Trump. I was championing Jamie Dimon. This next one comes from Jeremy, continuing on DEI. Jeremy Fuster over at The Wrap, Hollywood's diversity gains are eroding amid right-wing attacks, UCLA study shows. UCLA released its 12th annual Hollywood diversity report on Thursday, which is basically showing, there's a lot of these studies now, but this is one of the initial ones that I took a gander at when they started happening 10 years ago. So, but the Hollywood diversity report shows where diversity is in Hollywood in terms of TV shows and movies, and representation as a whole. There's, again, like I said, there's so many of these that cover so many different areas. There's some that cover women. There's some that cover people who are differently abled. There's some that cover Asians. There's some that cover Latino people. It's amazing. This is one that does basically everybody. There were some highs for people of color in the industry. There was not that many lows, but it's all different. 2024 saw a widespread reversal as film studios retreated from racial and ethnic diversity in front of and behind the camera. This comes from Ana Cristina Ramon, the co-founder of the report and director of UCLA's Entertainment and Media Research Initiative. The study found that of 104 films surveyed, which is they take a certain amount of films over a certain amount of time and they're more or less the blockbustery films. So this would, include your Disney Marvels, your Warner Brother Discovery films that failed in the box office, the Sony films that failed in the box office. Here's a note. I was watching CBS Sunday Morning this past Sunday, and they had a segment talking about how do I put this? Talking about tent poles and blockbusters in Hollywood and how independent movies don't do as well. What was that video? What was the video called? I'm on their YouTube right now. And it featured an interview with Sony's Tom Rothman, who was the president. And he talked about the evolution of movies and things like that. I believe the video is called "How Making and Watching Movies Change," and they also talked to Netflix boss Ted Sarandos as well as writer Nancy Meyers. And they talk about, as a whole, how people watch movies on their phones, on laptops, at home, and when they're more comfortable, as opposed to actually going to a theater and making an event of it, and that there's only so much attention that people can pay when they're at home versus going to a theater, and what actually gets people to theaters. And now, instead of there's two different types of movies, basically big blockbusters and small independent films, whereas those middle ground movies are living on the streaming platforms. But the Tom Rothman, Sony's Tom Rothman, was like, we try to. He said, I'm butchering this quote, but he's like, we only there's these big blockbuster movies and small independent films, and you can only go so far when you make we try not to put out so many blockbusters every year and so many things just with made with IP. And in the last year, Sony put out 3 Spider-Man based movies: Venom, The Last Dance, Madam Web, and Kraven the Hunter, and they all failed at the box office. Oh my God. Critically and at the box office. I mean, it's crazy. Just that's like me going, you can't put out so many podcasts, you can't interview so many people, it's just ridiculous. And I'm doing what I'm doing now. Anyway, back to the Hollywood Diversity Report from UCLA. The study found that of the 104 films surveyed, the share of films with casts that consisted of less than 11% actors of color more than doubled from 8.5% in 2023 to 18.4% in 2024. That is the highest share since 28.7% recorded in 2017. Which is interesting because Anora won Best Picture, and yet there's no people of color in that movie. Same thing for The Brutalist. Same thing for Baby Girl. The thing is, when you have these big movies, these movies that go to the Oscars, and I had a discussion with a friend who called me after the Oscars on Sunday night. It's 11 o'clock, and we were having a full hour and change conversation discussing this. We both had different insights, but I just don't watch movies or shows without people of color in them. Point blank. So I'll never see Nora. I'll never see The Brutalist. I understand the stories they're telling. Great. But I'll never see those movies because there's not one black, Latino, Asian, whatever. Anyway, it's just ridiculous that people are championing these movies. Anyway, the overall share of roles going to white actors also increased 59% from 59% in 2023 to 67.2% in 2024, reversing a years-long trend of gains for actors of color. A bright spot came for women, which we saw earlier a couple of months ago. I saw another study that was talking about just women in general in the industry. It jumped from 32.1% in 2023 to 47.6% in 2024, which is great because I feel like we're telling more female-centric stories. However, 31% of top theatrical films with women in leading roles had budgets of less than $10 million. Yeah, I just pushed the dog away. I'm sick of it. Watch the video. If you see my right arm, just push hard. By contrast, 33% of films with white men in leading roles had budgets of $100 million or more. What they're calling, excuse me, what I should not say they, what Fuster here is calling, Jeremy Fuster? Huh. What what Fuster's writing here, what they refer to as erosions in diversity. It's again, it's not a quick impact, but it is something that is kind of looking at the beach, looking at how sediment is eroded over time due to water continually rubbing against it or whatever. The matter is being transferred elsewhere. It's a slow and steady thing after these massive gains that we were having when it comes to representation on television and in the movies and everything surrounding those spheres. It feels as though, in the same way that I feel jobs that I'm applying to at companies that I may or may not have worked for before, that they're really going with what they know. You know, when you how many times have you seen a Skarsgård in a movie when it could have been somebody else in that role? I'm just saying, stop hiring a Skarsgård. They'll be fine. Or a Hollywood Chris. I have no problem with Chris Pine. Everybody else, no problems with you. But when you hire the same person, and it's not even typecasting, but it's hiring the same, white male figure for the same roles over and over and over again, as opposed to going out and trying something different, like the movie One of Them Days with Keke Palmer and SZA, or doing something different like Coda. Yes, I know that's a movie starring a white man, but still. Or just, hiring Dave Bautista or Bowen Yang, people who are popular amongst all different types of groups, but they are people of ethnic groups of themselves. Erosions in diversity among the top theatrical films are also are seen among writers, with 149 of 189 writers credited, or 78.8% being white men. And that's just something that it just feels like it's never going to change, especially as somebody who is in that sphere. The share of the films written by women fell 22.1%, down 5 percentage points from the survey's high for women in 2022. This is something I think about when you have a Marvel movie or a DC movie, and it feels like, on one hand, I want more women and people of color to write those movies, and then when they give the Black Panther to the black writer, they give the Captain Marvel or the Wonder Woman to the female writer, and then at some point I go, well, how come they can't get Superman? How come they can't get Avengers? I couldn't think of another thing, but like give people more chances outside of their spheres. And I understand that's, you kind of like, yeah, sure. Yes, it's okay. It's fine to not pander, but to give those, like, put the ball on the tee and let them, hit it off the tee for a possible home run. But also there has to be a way for those people in the industry who are of different label, who are colored. Couldn't think of a different word. People of color. I'm sure there's someone in the industry that still says colored. If Jack Nicholson doesn't say colored, I will be surprised. But not like in a racist way. He's like, I'm going to do my Jack Nicholson here. Hold on. I've got to go Jack Nicholson. I once acted with a couple of coloreds. It was great. I loved them. Your people are real good at acting. It was pretty good. Here's Johnny. Had to. In last year's edition of the Diversity Report, co-founder Daryl Hunt warned that such a backslide in diversity gains was likely due to the fallout of the recent writer's strike. And yeah, I could definitely see that. We could see, a more of a change this year because things will be coming out, things will be produced. But all in all, there are going to be more movies and TV shows starring the same people, and the representation could just kind of stagnate. Let me finish up this article and then I can go take the dog for a walk. Movies which had people of color representing between 41% and 50% of their casts, consistent with the 44.3% POC share of the U.S. population in the latest census, earned the highest median sales at $234 million domestic. When I was watching again this morning when I was cycling at home, and I turned on the season 48 premiere of Survivor. CBS is great. I have no issues with CBS. A couple of years ago, I'll do this in short. A couple of years ago, they said, Paramount said, we're going to be more diverse when it comes to the casting process for our TV shows, period. And first, I believe it was reality, and then it became all the scripted stuff too. But that's when they started doing 50% diversity casting, more or less. I'll just say it for Survivor and Amazing Race and all their other shows. And quite frankly, that's when I started watching, which is amazing. And then they have shows like Bob Hart's Abishola, and it's great the way that they cast. But one Asian male on just because I don't know his name. I don't know his name. I know one of the ladies' names on that show. Oh, Charity. Oh, those tattoos. But one Asian guy was talking about how he saw Yul on Survivor. Yul is one of the best players I've ever seen. He's one of my favorite. But he was on a season where they did Black people versus white people versus Latino people versus Asian people. It's a real season, and very quickly they go, "Oh, maybe we shouldn't do this," and they switch up the tribes like 2 episodes in. It's so funny. It's the funniest thing in the world. But Yul goes on to win that season, and what the guy in this current season talks about is how he saw himself out there. And he and Yule wasn't just like smart, but he was also in great shape. He was a great leader, and he was just a great person all around. He was a good person all around. And to see that, there's a 44.3% share of the United States population are people of color, and the movies that had people of color between 41% and 50% of their casts earned the most sales of $234 million domestically. We've seen this time and again in every single one of these studies for the past couple of years. People want to see themselves represented in any style of movie. And that includes a middle studio movie comedy like One of Them Days with Keke Palmer and SZA. That includes a February dropped action movie starring like Love Hurts, starring Ke Huy Quan. That includes big major action movies like Captain America, New World Order. Is that what it's called? Starring my friend and man who has been in my gym before, Anthony Mackie. People want to see themselves in these movies, and they want to see that representation. And then when you have movies like I'm gonna call it out again, Anora. When you have, and I feel bad for calling out The Brutalist because I know that it is a Holocaust movie. And I love that the Jewish people are represented, which is fantastic. It's great. I have no negatives about that. But when you have movies like A Complete Unknown and Conclave, and The Apprentice and Nora and A Real Pain. And again, I know a movie about Jewish people. I understand. It's great. It's wonderful. I'm sorry. In the substance, those movies don't represent, while they may represent certain sects of people, Nora, sex workers, A Real Pain, and The Brutalist, people of the Jewish faith, at different times of the century, Conclave, Catholics, The Apprentice, future presidents, unfortunately. While they do represent different sects of people, there's also movies and shows that do better, and even if they are blockbuster popcorn flicks, at least they are getting that broader picture, and sometimes that's exactly what you need. Movies like Wicked and Amelia Perez and I'm Still Here, which is Brazilian. Because when I see a movie like Flow, yeah, great. Oh, it's cool. Latvia won its first Oscar, but I know it was a movie made by all white guys. And yes, it's an anime movie about a friggin' a cat or some shit. But at least Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Foul, has a woman of color as one of the main characters. And The Wild Robot, same deal. And even Inside Out 2. I don't care about anxiety. I think anxiety is fake. I'm gonna get in so much trouble. But at least they're doing something, and they're not making a whole big deal about it, you know? But they're doing something about the representation, and they're doing something, that makes sense. Anyway, all that to say is I'll never see Nora. I have no interest in seeing that movie. It's 2025, and it takes place in 2025. At least The Brutalist takes place at a different time period. The fact that you could have, you have background actors. And there's background. I don't care. I want to have named characters with lines. All right, listen, I'm done. If you like what you heard here, and I know you did, head on over to the website, cpluscomedy.com, where you can see me talk to famous people sometimes. I just put out an interview with Mo Collins. I'm asking, is that the last person I spoke to? Yes, Mo Collins on the Constitutionals podcast feed, which is the entertainment business news show, as well as that's another podcast called what is it? Late Night Lately, the Late Night Show. I forgot what it was called. If you want to watch a video version, subscribe to those shows wherever you get your podcasts. If you want to watch a video version of this show as well as those shows, as well as my video version of my interview with Mo Collins, go to youtube.com/C+comedy, where you can see all that video goodness. You can follow us on social media. TikTok, Instagram, Blue Sky, Facebook @C+comedy. Follow me on those platforms @Chad Black White. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next time. Bye.